Joe Marino. Good morning, Joseph. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Joe is the candidate for mayor and will be facing off against Mayor Palmieri coming up in the primary in June. Of course, you were the subject of this latest story.
The brawl video investigation.
The brawl. Do you want to comment on the word brawl? Do you think that is...
I mean, look, and I'm here again, this is absolutely the last time I'll be talking about this issue. But I understand, people, look, had it been just an argument in a council meeting where people were talking about it, that's one thing. But the mayor instituted an investigation. In my opinion, it was a political waste of money to investigate. There's been
Michael Leaney's is estimating about $20,000.
Fine. $1 would have been too much.
I heard from someone from the city this morning who said it's closer to 13 or 15. It's still a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, do we want the number or do we not want the number?
No, I think that's fair. So so let's say it is 13. Let's take the lowest number. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
To institute an investigation on an argument that has happened dozens of times in those council chambers. Now, granted, was it professional? Of course not. There was swear words being used. But just to be clear, there was no public in the room, right? These were all people that we all know each other. So we've talked like that at bars with one another, which it doesn't make it right. But, I mean, there was a level of familiarity in the room that maybe just didn't reflect in all the conversation. But the mayor proposed, and his administration proposed that it was a brawl, it was a fight. And now the video comes out and it shows that there's two men screaming at each other or yelling at each other. Again, I come out and I understand because of that level of investigation and the things that have come out in public, people need to hear about it.
Yeah.
So I come out and I come here and I talk to you, and here I am again today talking about the issue because I'm not going to hide from it. I'm not going to not answer questions. And one of the things I listen to your show, because unlike other politicians, I admit that I listen to your show, and I listen to it all the time. And I think yesterday, Jeff, you made a very valid point. You said, look, with the baseball thing and this thing, Joe Marino comes in here and says, nothing happened. And that's a valid question, which is why I wanted to be here today to talk about that, in part. And we'll talk about other things. I never said nothing happened. I never said that it wasn't. What I said was, as it was characterized, there was no brawl. There was no fight. There was an argument. It wasn't as broadly played out as it should have been in the public. So for that, and Councilman DiBrango and I went out and we were glad to go out and talk about it publicly and hug each other on the TV. So I never said nothing happened. It was an unfortunate argument about a real issue, and the issue got completely downplayed. And I think that that's an effective tool that the mayor tries to use to ignore issues. Right? You don't want to talk about the issue. Marino gets in an argument. I've probably been in 8 years, perhaps 2 screaming matches. There's a lot of screaming matches that go on, and I've been involved in probably 2 in 8 years, and I haven't been in one in several years because I'm just not.
I will say that Michael Leamy did say that he has had. Well, how did he word it? There have been several council members that he feels that have been in this, that have been in some sort of a disruptive
but things
state.
happen. I remember the first one.
Which doesn't make it right, by the way.
No, certainly not. But the first one, look, again, it was a very politically charged and very deeply charged issue. We were discussing at the time of, and I'll never forget it because it's not happened often, we were discussing cutting police and fire about 8 years ago. And that was a very, very heavy moment. And, people get passionate about those things. So when I call it passion, I'm not downplaying the incident. I'm not saying nothing happened. There was a very unfortunate argument between 3 people. I felt that my position was appropriate. I felt that my budgetary expertise, if you can say that, led me to believe something about a policeman. And I believe that 2 experts in public safety felt differently, which is fine. I respect that. Jack LoMedico has been very good in terms of public safety.
I don't want to cut you off.
Please.
I appreciate you coming on because your opponent won't come on this show, apparently.
Sure.
Because you come on and you answer the questions, and you've done it every time. At what point, and I understand what you're saying, at what point, what prompts you to tell one counselor, I'll kick your butt,
right,
and almost come to blows with another?
Sure. See, that's the thing. It just simply isn't true. It simply isn't true. I mean, this investigation.
What isn't true?
You didn't say
I never
Jack
said,
LoMedico, I'll kick your butt.
I'll kick your butt. I've never said that to Frank DiBrango. This investigation is wrought with innuendo. There's an actual lie in there. It says that I admitted And I had to have my lawyer write a letter to this guy because I've never admitted, and I spoke with Mr. DiBrango the next day to say, hey, look, Frank, just so you know, I never admitted that. I have to have my lawyer write a letter to say that I never. Thank God I had a lawyer.
That you never said, let's use the word, I'm going to kick your, let's go outside, I'm going to kick your ass.
I've never said that. Never once.
Okay.
Not once in that meeting. And I don't even believe anyone said that to me. Now, were there threats being made and, I'm not afraid of you and who do you think you are? Certainly.
Do you want to take this outside?
And never, at one point, did I ever feel threatened. I don't believe that anyone else.
Well, I don't think anyone's saying you felt threatened. I think that you were. The claim is you were threatened.
Right. I read the report, and again, I can ignore, Jeff, the political slant. I can ignore the innuendo. I can ignore all that. What I won't ignore is the fact that it said I admitted to anything. I had to have my lawyer read a letter saying that I was in the room with Mr. Marino when you were doing the interview. He'd never said that. I'd like you to retract it. So that's the only thing that I really have a problem with. Just don't lie about my words. You can say whatever you want. People could say whatever they'd like. I can't. Look, the only part of the video that shows that I was not an aggressor is missing for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it tampered with, wasn't tampered with, it was just faulty equipment, and for whatever. And I was very careful to tell you at the time we talked about that on the show. I'm not accusing anyone, but the fact is it's not there. You watch the video. Frank and I are standing up. 45 seconds later, there's two officers, telling us to stop talking.
Which leads you to wonder what happened in between.
Frank DiBrango was the aggressor?
I'm not saying anyone was an aggressor. I'm just saying the things that would show that there was no brawl is missing. Sure. The things that they would show that there was no physical fight is missing. So,
the report says. I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah.
The report says, in fact, law enforcement believes. This was what the report says. Law enforcement believes if they were not present to intervene and physically separate Common Councilor Marino and Councilor DiBrango, punches would have been thrown between Marino and DiBrango.
And if I can add,
sure.
Mike Galimi did say that this morning, that he felt that if they didn't step in, it would have gotten physical.
Yeah, again, I don't know how you could surmise that. I really don't. Frank DiBrango and I sat next to each other for the following 20 minutes of the meeting, arm to arm. We weren't like on the same table. And then we went and spoke after to one another in a private room together alone.
Yeah.
So Frank wasn't trying to attack me there. I wasn't trying to attack him there. The fact that people are saying things in a politically charged investigation is something I can't really deal with. Yeah. I can't answer to. So again, but this is the thing that
I agree to a point. Just for the sake of this discussion, I do agree to a point on the political nature of the investigation or whatever. But I just think you keep going back to that. You sidestep the idea that this got out of hand to begin with. And it is kind of nothing happened.
No, nothing. Something happened.
Multiple people say this would have been a fist fight in the council chambers.
But there wasn't.
You say, no, but this was a political investigation. What about that?
Fine, but there wasn't a fist fight. Let's say there was going to be a fist fight. Let's say if 5 more seconds go in, Frank and I are going to come to blows. Let's say we were going to. We didn't. I can't answer as to why people thought we were going to. I heard Mr. Galimi say a bar and a music. I can't answer. They have to answer why they think it would have been. Frank and I had talked about it. He said, Joe, I would have never hit you. I said, Frank, I would have never hit you. So both of us have talked about it. And but again, because of the political nature, I'm talking about it in public. And what I'm doing is distracting from the issues. Because when I'm here answering these, not from you, but these ridiculous charges,
no, I get it.
In my opinion. I'm answering these ridiculous charges. Meanwhile, I do it all the time. When you need me, I'm here in person with no lawyers. Meanwhile, the mayor has not answered to real things, right? Not his personality. I've heard things about his personality. I've never said any of them. I don't talk about his personality. How about your answer on term limits? Why did you sign that law? How about your answer on no plans for roads? What are you doing still proposing your roads plan as it was 3 years ago when the council presented you one? Why haven't you followed the council's plan? Why haven't you answered to the Brooks investigation? I'm here doing all those things, and the mayor isn't, and that's the distraction that he likes to propose. He won't answer issues, but I will, and that's what I want to do from this point forward.
You're right. Can I continue this? Just a couple more. Are you a hothead?
Yeah, see, I've heard that before, but again, there's.
Do you think you are?
I don't think I am. You can ask my sons and my daughter; they'll be able to answer that a little bit better than I could. I certainly, again, 8 years, 2 arguments, and you can ask anybody. I don't fly off the handle at meetings, and I've been insulted plenty of times in meetings. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not a very tall, hair-length guy. So people say things, but I get it. I mean, I really do. In this particular instance, I felt very strongly that the police officer in City Hall should not be paid for by CDBG money. That's my opinion. I believe that money should go to Cornhill and West Utica. So Jack LoMedico felt strongly otherwise. He said, look, the cops are telling you that you're full of bleep, right? Fair. It's a fair assessment from a guy who sees things from a different angle. We argued about it vigorously. I'm not going to get it. You think that I'm blowing it off. I'm not. It was a very vigorous argument. It was very loud. It was very contentious. No doubt about it. But the issue at hand, I still believe in. I still believe that we're paying for a cop out of city resources that should go somewhere else, and the cop belongs on the street. So I'd love to talk to the mayor as to why he thinks that CDBG money is appropriate to buy a cop for City Hall.
Can you promise voters in Utica, whether it's on the council or in the mayor's office, you're not going to lose your cool? Forgive me for using that. You lose your cool and almost come to blows with other politicians or city officials.
That's a fair question, but I can only say to speak to my record. I've gotten into one argument in the last 8 years, 2 arguments in total 8 years. I mean, 2 arguments when things have gotten contentious in that meeting. I heard you play music. People have called these meetings circuses, right?
They are.
Well, fair enough. But the fact remains is all of that circus, 2 arguments, and the fact that I'm running for mayor, this one was investigated. Why aren't the other arguments investigated? So I got to, again, to answer your question, it's a fair one. But to say that I'm a hothead, to say it's improbable because of my history. Not because I'm just telling you. I'm on tape at all these meetings. Watch them. Anyone could watch them. I sit there. I do my job. I propose things. I vote on things. 8 years of a record of not being a hothead. 8 years. It's on TV.
I have a listener asking, why take it to this level? Not just for you, but for LoMedico, for DiBrango. It's a philosophical disagreement you guys had.
Sure.
Why any of you allow it to go to this level where it is filled with insults and hot-headedness, aggression?
It shouldn't have. There's no answer to that.
Yeah.
There's no reasonable answer as to why people were yelling at each other. Again, these people and I, we've known each other for years. So if I'd have gotten in an argument with a manager at Applebee's, let's say, that would have seemed a little bit different. But, again, not appropriate.
I have said the problem. Yeah. During the break, I said to Manasseh, you know the problem with this? All these freaking people went to high school together.
Everybody knows each other.
That's the problem.
I've known Frank DiBrango for 20 years. I've known Jack for all 6, 7 years that he's been on the council.
Right.
We eat dinner together.
Yep.
We've gone out to after meetings endlessly. So the familiarity of it and no public being there, in my opinion, I mean, I can't answer for them. But the familiarity of it, but it was inappropriate to use those words in a meeting, period. I mean, those things. But again, 8 years of being on TV, recorded endlessly. And, I heard that the mayor hasn't showed up to one meeting in 8 years, or he's been at one.
Yeah.
He's not on TV. He's not accountable to anything or anyone. So perhaps 8 years, after being on for 8 years, you get me in 2 arguments, one during an election year. Congratulations. Now that all of that is done, now that you've spent tens of thousands of the taxpayers' dollars to try to prove that I'm a knucklehead, great. Now that that's done, now debate me. Now come in here and debate me, go on TV and debate me on the issues. Tell me why you raised taxes 41% in 6 years you're not running, but tried to lower them 2 when you are. Tell me why that you've let sword fighting go on and disrepair in the fire department. Tell me why you've made those. Those are government decisions. Not are you a hothead, not are you, a terrible person, a great father, a terrible coach. All those things I could deal with. Answer me this. How will you handle your term as the governing CEO of the city of Utica? He won't do it. And he won't do it because of things like this. He tries to deflect.
John is on the line with a quick question. John, I'm going to let you get the final word here, or at least the final question in anyway.
Look, I'm not a Utican, but I love listening to Utica politics. And when you have these guys on your show, it's awesome. But I just wanted to let you know that Jeff asked the right question. I was going to call in and ask if this guy was a hothead.
Are you a hothead? Right.
And I believe every time something happens, it's not his fault, it's not my fault, it's always somebody else's fault. So that's my opinion. And
okay.
I just love Utica politics, man.
Okay, John. Thanks John.
Glad to provide entertainment. But again, it is a fair question. But that's the question that I think my opponent would like you to kind of come to the conclusion of. You videotape me at baseball games and have it sent to the media. You watch me day in and day out at council meetings. Again, I'm recorded all the time at all these meetings. You watch me day in and day out. And the first time I get in an argument in 7 years, you hire an investigator to do it. You know, fair enough.
So what do you learn out of this? And back to that question of what I think it takes. It's funny the DA talked about this yesterday, saying, "I really hope that we all learn something out of this, not just for the Common Council, not just for Joe, but everybody learn something out of this. That when you raise the level to that extreme." Do you really think you're going to change the other person's mind?
Yeah, and that's a good point. But again, in the heat of the moment, you're not thinking about it. You're defending your point.
So then what have we learned out of this?
What I have learned is this. First, I will not change my governing style. I've done it for 8 years. I've done it effectively. People have been very well served by me, I believe, in my 8 years. I won't change my governing style. But what I will do is be very, very careful as to, allow and be allowed to speak in a more professional manner. I'm very committed. I've always championed myself as a professional. I said it when I first got on. The council was in really, really bad shape when I first got on. But I won't allow myself, or I won't. These people I respect, right? I don't know that this will ever happen again for anyone else, but I could tell you it won't happen again between me and Jack and Frank or anyone else. I could tell you for me that I'm committed to making sure that this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to add?
No, look, again, I appreciate you guys having me on. I just, we
appreciate you coming in.
I know you do, but I just don't get why, these, not from you guys, from your standpoint, but these things become sensationalized, and that's fair. It's very fair. But now that sensationalism is over, and again, like I told you, and I mean it sincerely, I'm done. This is the last time I'm talking about this issue. I don't care what happens from this point forward regarding that issue. I've got a lot of work to do, and I refuse to let the voters not hear issues and just hear this from me, right? Anyone else wants to talk about it, fine. But I just, the accountability that I think the mayor is not held to, in public, I think it's sad for him to not have to go out and answer those types of questions, but he does these things. So I will continue if anything ever happens again, maybe not to this nature. I
don't think there's anybody out there's been any tougher on the mayor than I've been when it comes to coming in and answering questions.
But in fairness,
we haven't talked to him in over a year.
You guys have been pretty tough on me,
we
right?
Have
I mean,
yes.
So
I talked about this yesterday. It is unfortunate that the same thing happened with Brindisi. Claudia would not come on. And we'd hammer Anthony Brindisi on certain issues when they would come up. The same thing has happened with you. I can't do that to the mayor because he refuses to put himself in the venue.
Every single issue,
and that's a fair.
Sheriff Mayshall had a problem with his COs, and one of them got fired for drugs, I believe. He was on the next day talking about it. Yeah. Tony Piseni was offering a U district that happened to have a pretty big big casino that was involved, and that wasn't very well received publicly.
But I received it very well.
People, right.
I can't wait for it to open.
But he was on the next day. Anthony Brindisi on the next day.
The nanotechnology thing was one of the
government official is here talking.
Toughest days when whatever that
all three of them
when they pulled out, they were all here.
But Republicans, Democrats, I'm just saying, there's not a delineation between what type of person does come on, what type of person doesn't. It's every show, every interview, but every time there's a charity event, I'll come on. Every time there's a zoo event, I'll come on. It's just not fair to the public, and I believe that they see through this. I believe that this will go away, unfortunately, for the mayor, and I will continue to knock on doors and tell people what I'm about as a governor, as a leader of the city, and how I will hire a real engineer for our roads. I will determine, based on not politics, how we handle disciplinary measures between our police and fire and city hall members. I will absolutely return term limits back to 8 years because I won't usurp the voice of the people. Will he do any of those things? Will he answer as to why he won't do any of those things? I'm here to do it every time.
All right. Somebody did mention to me yesterday from City Hall about, and when we're trying to get the mayor on, I want him to come on. Don't you feel you owe him equal time? No. There's equal time in here every morning.
Yeah.
between 6 and 9 a.m. when I'm here, there's your equal time, and I would gladly offer that.
Well, 2 weeks is come and gone and come and gone.
I appreciate, and I just appreciate the fact that you and so many others are willing to come on and answer
people deserve
questions and not run away the minute the questions get tough.
Sincerely, as do I.
My pleasure.
You knew that Manaske was going to go at you today.
As he should. People need the answers to those kind of questions.
And you still came in, and I appreciate that.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.